people think that human consciousness is something that is outside of their heads, or is very much tied to the inside of your head. But it's everything. But it's nothing at the same time, you know. Human consciousness starts with words. Without words, you can't have consciousness, because what words are descriptions of things, just summarized descriptions. So, for example, there's a tree has a description, but you couldn't have the definition of tree without the word tree. The header of the word being the word itself, and then the subheader or subtitle or whatever being the definition of that word. Of course, we're talking about English right now. You can start talking about other languages, but they all have the same thing in common, and that is that there's a sound recognized by the group that it correlates to a certain set of pre-understood things in the world. Now, when I say thing, I mean metaphysical things, invisible things, very literal physical things like rocks. But consciousness is the part of life that it's the part that gives you the feeling that you are in control of everything you're doing. If you did something, it must have been your free will driven by your consciousness. So your consciousness being the reason for doing something, the explanation as to why you did something can somehow be tied to consciousness. Being that, say, for example, there's a person and you attack them because you love them. All these things can be tied to some conscious state. You loving, you disliking, because of reasons that also exists, you think, in your consciousness. That time they hugged you, that time they cheated on you. So consciousness is very much like the foundation that your name is applied to, the reason why you would go to jail in a court of law and not somebody else, because the crime committed was done regardless of who did it. So the system of punishment is, figuring out how to most mitigate whatever negative effects we want to curb in a society, is tied to that thing called you, and that thing that you believe is attached to you in some way, and that is your consciousness. So it's complicated, but only because I believe a lot of people approach consciousness as first of all, something they don't want to touch, because it's just like, what are you even talking about, but if you do want to get near it, then usually the first route is religion, but that's only because consciousness came out of religious belief, and we don't need the religion part anymore. I mean, there's elements to religion, I'm not going to get into religion, but that are unifying, but the gray matter of the brain is now, I believe, can stand alone without the feelings that there's some special thing in the world. Unfortunately, that's the mechanization of the human mind. So human consciousness, it's a loopy one, but it's one that it's fun to travel. You smoke some weed, you hang out with your buddies, and you talk about consciousness for 8 hours. That's my definition of a good time.